Hi, and welcome to episode 20 of Camology, the Cambridge podcast. And today I am joined by the super duper, excellent and fabulous Rebecca Davies from HR Ready. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Dan. How are you doing?
Yeah, I would say I'm great, but we've tried to record this call for the last half an hour, so it hasn't been the greatest start, but we're ready to rock and roll. We are ready to rock and roll. So, Rebecca, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself, what you do, and get cracking?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Rebecca Davies, as you've already mentioned. I set up a business called HR Ready, and we're basically a HR consultancy that are doing things different. We're very much about adding value to businesses, and even our tagline says, "You value your people, we take care of them," and that is exactly what we do. So whether you kind of want HR support at a very operational level all the way up to strategic support within your businesses, then we're there to help you along the way. I've got a few people working with me as well in the team. So between us all, we've got probably about 50 years experience within HR. So we know what we're talking about. We love business problems and we love providing solutions with them. So yeah, as long as you're forward thinking, entrepreneurial kind of spirit organizations that obviously value your people and put your people first, then we would love to hear from you and to work with you.
Because that's what I thought was really great about you, because I sound like a bit of a broken record, because I've had a few people on the podcast, and one of the sort of, if you like, the prerequisites of coming on the podcast is, I spend a lot of my time on LinkedIn promoting my own business, and I find there's a lot of waffle on LinkedIn, and there's a lot of people saying a lot but not saying anything at all. And I really admire your posts about you're talking about HR in a sort of a really how can I put it, sort of a heartfelt, meaningful way. And what struck me when you said forward-thinking companies. So that's a word that perhaps needs a bit more clarification. So when you say forward-thinking, what do you actually mean by that?
So I think it's around wanting to make the workplace a better place to be. And you probably think that's a bit airy-fairy to say, and you're HR, and of course you're going to say that, and it's all about the people. But it is about the people, because without them you wouldn't have an organization. But it's also about the business outcomes. And I think where, some HR professionals go wrong when they talk to businesses is they don't look at the outcomes. They don't actually look at what the results are going to be. They just apply process and procedure, which is really important, process and procedure within HR. However, it's about how it's applied with the business to make the business successful, because that's what I'm all about. I want to see a business grow. I want it to be successful, and I want to be a part of that. And to be able to do that, sorry, go on.
No, so again, you apply it to the business. As you're talking, I'm thinking, is it applied to like on an individual basis as well? I guess according to the size of the company, but is it taking it on an individual basis and trying to find out what the individuals within a company, what kind of makes them tick, perhaps what their outcomes are, and see if an individual's outcomes and what they want to achieve can be, if you like, aligned to the business outcomes? Is that?
Yes, it is. So we basically will look at, if we take it top level, we'll look at the business strategy. So that's exactly where we start. And we say, what is it that the business wants to achieve? And then we will then support with a people strategy. And that's really trying to align both of them together. So you get the right people, the right place, the right time. You might have heard these sort of things before. And one of the things that we're really passionate about, and that I wanted to talk to you in a bit more detail today, is kind of about the employee experience. Now, we are really keyed up as businesses to sell to our customers. We do a lot of, external selling. You want our product, you want our service, that we're great, this is what we're all about. Now, we've actually sell to our employees or to our prospective employees, and we forget about that sometimes, as the kind of history's gone on and we've progressed through work, we used to be very much in a time where, you know, you'll be lucky you've got a job. You turn up every day, you know, you work 9 till 5, you get paid, you get your breaks, you know, when we say you can have them, and you do as we say, and then you go home. And there was a real defined split between work time and personal time. And as time has progressed through, we kind of changed and we started looking at productivity, and like the people such as Henry Ford, you know, 1913, he had his first assembly line going. And he was actually looking at, okay, we've got you between 9 and 5, but I want to get the most out of my employees. So he started obviously timing, how long does it take for this process from A to B? And, you know, time then continued on, and we've started to evolve and look at actually introducing people more into it, rather than it's just a task, it just produces a product or a service. And we started looking at employee engagement. So that's another like little buzzword, I suppose. And employee engagement's great, but it seems to be almost where we've got a bit stuck. And employee...
For the people that don't understand that term, can you sort of, what does employer engagement?
That's exactly what I'm going to do. So employee engagement is like a short-term fix to something. So say, for example, you do an employee engagement survey, and out of that survey, as a manager, I read it and I say, oh, we've got a communication issue. I know how to solve that. I'm going to put in town hall meetings, or we're going to do team meetings. So it immediately addresses the problem that's there. Or another example of that could be management team needs improving. Brilliant. Okay. So I'm going to now put all my managers on a training course. So do you see how it's kind of a short-term fix? Now, what that does is that improves the employee engagement. So it makes me happy as an employee because you've listened to me and you've addressed my concern, but actually there's still niggly bits going on. So brilliant that you've put them on a training course, but it doesn't make them a brilliant manager. It just means they've now got a tick in the box that they have been on some training.
Exactly what, as you're going through all of that, I'm literally seeing an A4 piece of paper with a big tick on it. It just seems like yeah, we've done that. Great, move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that's with communication. Oh, we want more communication. Brilliant. So we do a town hall meeting. Well, brilliant, but you've not told me anything that I want to know as an employee. You've told me what, as a manager, you think I need to know. And that's kind of where there's this real split between, and you'll hear it, you know, it's the management and it's us, it's them and us, you know, management to employees. And the employee experience is trying to remove that, and it's actually putting the emphasis back on the employees. Now, people might be thinking, oh, great, so, you know, give it all to the employees, it's all down to them, you know, I'm not going to give them massive pay rises or give them the jobs that they want, and it's not about that in a nutshell. What employee experience is about, it's about those longer term views about creating feelings and shared purposes. So let me go back to the example when I said, you know, we sell to our customers. We sell an experience. We sell a feeling. You take the perfume industry. You see the perfume adverts and like Chanel or somewhere like that. You know, they've got the bottle of perfume in the background, haven't they? But what they're selling is the fantasy or the lifestyle, the feeling surrounded to that bottle of perfume. They don't tell you what the ingredients are in the perfume and say, this is what, you know, you want to wear this because it's got rose petals in it, because you'll be like, oh, I don't really want to smell like roses. But actually knowing that, hey, I could wear a slinky dress and I could walk in and all the, you know, people could look at me and it makes me feel this way, well, I'm going to go out and buy that bottle. And that's the same thing with employee experience. So why do I want to come and work for you in your business? What is it that makes me want to be here? How are you making me feel about being here? What type of work are you giving me? Do I enjoy that work? Do I want to do that work? And, you know, I've heard managers say, and I've said it earlier, you know, oh, they should be lucky they've got a job. Why? Because in this day and age, if I don't like the organisation I'm in, I can walk out the door and there's 1,000 other organisations I could go and join.
Yeah.
So actually we need to like change that, tip it on its head and go, actually, what are we providing our employees? How are we retaining them? What are we doing to keep them here? Because we recruited these people, so they must have had something about them.
Mm. It's so interesting because anecdotally, you hear, or I hear, so many companies get it wrong. So many companies of all sizes get it really wrong. And when I say company of all sizes, that sort of big companies where that you think they would be really dynamic and forward thinking, and have all these, have a basic awareness of all of this, and they so get it wrong, and to your point, treat their employees like numbers, not like actual human beings with emotions, with feelings, with they're not robots, and so yeah, it makes me cringe sometimes how people just get it wrong, and B, they just have no awareness of this stuff.
Yeah, I think, as time's gone on as well, we've kind of merged. So we don't now have this 9 till 5, you go to work and then you completely switch off. It's continuous. So, you might be checking your emails at night or working later on, time to do some bits personally with your family, or, vice versa. It's all intermerged now and interlinked. And so we need to stop as a society saying, right then, we're the organisation, we're in charge, to actually think, no, this needs to be more of a leveled relationship. We want huge amounts from our employees, but also they want something from us. And I think as organizations and as managers and leaders, we need to be there to support them, to get the best out of them. That is what makes our businesses successful. And
yeah, I mean, it just seems so logical. Like, as you're saying that, I said, outside of work, you'd support your friend. You'd support. Yeah. Why does that end at the door? Why does, just because you've got a suit on and I've got a suit on, I treat you like crap, or I treat you like a wouldn't even dream of treating anybody else outside of an office environment.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And the thing is a lot of these things are, well, I mean, they can be extremely costly to a business if you get them wrong. So, if you look at a business and you will see operational issues, so you might see high absence rates, you might see a high turnover in your business, you might see low engagement, you might have difficulty recruiting people. These are the things where employee engagement boils down to at an operational level. You can see there's an issue. And then it's what you do. If you do it from an engagement perspective, you could just do a quick fix and put in that town hall meeting. You could change the system, you could put a new process in place, you can build a team, but that's all done in isolation. And that's looking at that one problem and finding that one solution. Where employee experience is a bit more around actually looking at the whole thing. So looking at it holistically and thinking, what is it, every single touch point that we've got, how does that impact the recruitment process? How does that impact our succession planning, or our training and development, or our retention of employees? It's everything encompassing.
Does that also encompass, when you were talking, I was thinking about sort of the company culture, as in
massively.
Well, I'm thinking of the analogy trying to turn around sort of a massive boat in a sea. What's the analogy? But I guess these culture change in certain companies, in certain arenas, is perhaps a long-term process.
Yeah, so when you're looking at employee experience, there's 3 main areas that you'll actually focus on. So that have been discussed. There's a guy called Jacob Morgan. He's kind of like really come out on top. He's done lots of studies with businesses, some of the top businesses in the world, to find out exactly what employee experience means. And he came up with 3 things. He came up with, there's a physical environment, there's the cultural environment, and then there's the systems that you put in place.
Okay.
Now, I'll explain a bit more around those. So when you have got the systems, we'll take that one first, that looks at, or the technological, that looks at the processes you follow, and that they should be fit for everybody. Now, when we roll out a system, so say for example, I don't know, it's a HR system, it's not give it to some people, so just the HR team, it's roll it out to everybody. So everybody's got access to it, everybody can use it. Now, it's all very well just rolling out a system, but actually that system needs to be working for the people, not just the task. So, okay, I've put a system in place and it takes me half an hour to run a process. Well, if I didn't have the system, I could do it in 10 minutes. It's a rubbish system. Why have we got it? And that's kind of what the emphasis is on. It's about using technology to our advantage to help us, but not to be tied to the technology.
So are you talking about, in my ignorance, sorry, so expand that a bit more in detail. So when you talk about systems, are you actually talking about, physical hardware, sort of computer programs where people can log all these HR issues? Is that what you're getting at?
Yes, part of it is. So system like that, a hard system where you can log in, is absolutely part of it, but it's also about the processes and the procedures. It's about the interactions that you have remote. So it's looking at it from a technological perspective and saying, right then, well, what does everybody need? They need their phones, they need their laptops, they need, I don't know if it's their iPads or tablets, whatever it is. It's about having the right headsets if you're talking, and, to make the job easier, because if we don't have that, then we're going to get frustrated. And you think about it, when you, today, did you get frustrated that Zoom didn't work?
I did. The air turned a bit blue. It's probably as blue as your background for a good half an hour, to be honest.
And that's the thing. So, this Zoom, your work environment at the moment, you're using Zoom. That's caused you frustration. That's caused you, anger. And those are the feelings that this piece of technology is giving you. And that's what it's about. And you kind of think, oh, is this going to happen to me again next time? You don't want to have those feelings, do you? You want to come to work and you want to say, right then, I'm going to use this today. I'm really interested and it works really well for me. So I'm going to whiz through it and do all my work, and I'm going to be so productive, and I'm going to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And you're feeling happy.
Yeah. And
that's what the employee experience is about. It's about creating the feelings around it that you want in your business. It's around, really giving you that purpose. So why are you there? Why are you using this? Does it make a difference?
So when you're working with companies, because what came to mind when you said that is, if you're working with companies, or perhaps talking in general, like, how does a company quantify feelings? Because don't get me wrong, feelings is everything. It's our internal environment, it's our emotions, and they're obviously very, very important. But do you ever come up against people saying, well, what are you talking about? It's feelings, I can't. Where does feelings appear on my bottom line? Where does feelings appear in? I can't hold. I can't grasp feelings.
Yeah.
How, do you ever come up against that?
Yeah, of course. And, I would never go into a business starting to talk about feelings, in such a way that it makes feelings make people feel awkward. They don't necessarily know how to deal with them. And I think that fundamentally comes down to when you deal with managers and you say to them, what's the bit that you enjoy and you hate the most? And they say, managing people. Why? Well, because, they're the unknown. And, oh, well, what, if I have that conversation, what might they say? What will happen? And it's like, what we end up doing is we forget to talk to people, and we forget to take on board actually what they're saying and what they're doing. And so, if you want the measurements of it, then that's what comes out in the operational things. That's what we can use, say, for example, the employee engagement survey. That will give businesses the metrics. We can record, how many people have come through our doors and left in terms of turnover. We can report on these stuff. What's the average salaries that we're getting? Why are people then leaving 6 months later? Was it our onboarding process? You know, you can really break that down and understand and get the metrics. But this is looking at the above, you know, looking from above and really focusing on what is it that as a business we want to deliver? How do we want our employees to feel? Because this ties into culture. Do you have a blame culture? And, you know, you want people to come to work dreading you and fearing you and fearing your business. And if they make a decision, then they might get fired. You know, that has an impact. And so actually talking to people and relating it back to them and on an individual level and kind of saying, what is it that you want from work? Because everyone's the same. It doesn't matter whether you're the CEO of the business or you're, you know, right at the bottom of the hierarchy. It's irrelevant. You all feel the same about work, about that organization. So actually you can communicate quite well with business leaders because, you know, they're under lots of pressure. And so they don't want to be blamed all the time. They don't want to, you know, have that not in the pit of their stomach thinking, I don't want to go to work today. And so, you know, you can really relate, and how people manage and lead it, you know, it starts at the top at the end of the day. And it will resonate down into the business. If you want to be feared at the top, then everybody will be feared as they go through the organization. You're not going to get a lot out of people.
Yeah, that what you mentioned earlier about, you know, that culture of fear and making decisions and being empowered to make decisions. I can only sort of in my sort of sphere of people that I know, there is, you know, there are so many, I see it, there's so many SMEs, you know, sort of 1 to 10 employees that I know that the manager owned businesses, and there is that right at the top, and there is that fear that really you can see it in people that, well, no, it's the fear and that total lack of empowerment to make any sort of decision or be creative or take ownership of their their job more than anything, the job they've been paid to do.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes down to not knowing, and they create a fear because they don't understand or they don't know. And so if you don't, you'll try to always hold on to things because you don't want to let it go for fear of failure. And people see failure as an end result, but it's really not. And actually, I wrote onto a LinkedIn post, I see failure as like a speed bump in the road. So yes, you go over it, you hit it, oh dear, I failed, but you've got to keep going. What you've got to do is learn from that failure and then move forward, not go, I failed, right, that's it, end, done. And so you feel it, you feel that fear of failure, and then you get on and you carry on doing. And in business, especially as a, you know, an SME business owner, you're juggling so many things and your expertise is not in all of them. You know, you take a financial advisor. They're brilliant at what they do, which is advising on financial matters. Now, if I said, right then, hire people and start, you know, managing them, oh, that's not my level of expertise. No, it's not. So you need to find out how to do that. You can read lots of books, you know, podcasts, there's huge amounts of things out there. You could hire somebody to help who will take that and alleviate that from you. You know, it's like even in my business, I get rid of my accounts, you know, and I'm sure a lot of people do. I could do them. It takes me a long time to do them. I don't know the ins and outs of them. So I get somebody to do that for me. And it takes that weight off my shoulders. I don't fear it anymore because if I've got a query, I can call up my accountant and say, can you give me a hand? And that's what it's about. So you start moving in your organization and you start empowering other people to do things as you start to hire people in.
Yeah. And it's something I heard a couple of weeks ago that I forget his name now, but they were having it was another podcast and they were chatting about Pete, when you're employing somebody, you should always employ somebody that's better than you. Do you know what I mean? And I found I was like, oh, bloody hell, would I want to do that? Oh God, that'd be a bit of damage to my ego. Do you know what I mean? And I kind of, that seems a really like, you know, the kind of way to think about it, like always employ somebody that's better than you. So, you know, the sort of the analogy of the rising tide, you know, raises all ships. I thought that was
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes you better, and it makes your business better. I think it was Richard Branson that says, people are your greatest assets. And he also mentioned about, people always hire better than you, always hire someone smarter than you are. And that's true, because your experience and your vocation is completely different to somebody else's. And, you can't do everything. So if you hire the experts into those roles, or the people that have got the experience, they will take the stress off you, they'll take the fear away, and they will get on and run it. But what needs to link you is your values, your culture, your shared views. Because otherwise you could have, someone come in who's an expert and then just take your business in a completely different direction. And you go, hang on a minute, that's got nothing to do with where we want to be or how we operate. So this then comes back to the employee experience and the area around culture and having a purpose. And, you hear a lot of mission statements and things. I want to be the greatest at this. Well, that's great. You've got to strive for something. Actually, how are you engaging your employees in that? Where's the feeling in there? So things that are, quite great, or companies are kind of like, we want to have 0% footprint, carbon footprint, and we want to support and help communities do X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. Employees can get behind that. Yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to be green. I want to be environmentally friendly. I want to support third world countries. I want to, etc. That really resonates with people. That's just an example of using it. But do you see how I'm trying to get the feeling in there? It's not just I want to be the best at selling computers or whatever it is. It's about, understanding people. And what do people want? So it's just looking at it at an individual level. I don't think it's difficult. It's not rocket science. What do you want from work? You want to come in and do a good job. You want recognition for doing a good job. You want everybody to understand the contribution that you've made in the business. You want it to be interesting work. You want to enjoy what you're doing. All these things, they've all got feelings behind them, and you can absolutely put that into your work. Organisations can create this for their employees. They just have to think of it differently and just not do things which are always task orientated. So let me give you an example. You might have 5 people in your team. They've all got different experiences, but you're all in the R&D environment. They've all got different experiences. They've all got different loves and hates of things. Now, you could turn around and say, right, I need you to do all these tasks. Off you go and do them. But actually, if I just sat there and worked out, okay, I've got, employee A, they love to be able to research and write the reports to be able to share with people. I've got another employee here that loves to train and mentor people and, really understand what's going on. I've got another employee that just likes to sit there and just head down and get on with it and doesn't like to talk to other people. I've got, you start picking out what individuals want. Oh, actually, I've given the wrong job to the wrong person. I needed to have, swapped it about to get the best out of them. So that's just looking at it at a really kind of basic level of what you've got. There's also then, the feeling around it. So you don't want to keep giving the same person the same work all the time because they might get bored.
So to that point, I'm just thinking, sorry to take you at your stride. So in terms of when you're bringing in an employee into the company, what are your feelings on as part of the sort of the recruitment process, and when you bring them into the company, these sort of psychometric tests where you find out, sounds like Frankenstein, but no, where you're taking them, I mean, there's quite a few psychometric tests out there, isn't there? There's Myers-Briggs, there's I forget the other one, the numerous ones, where you find out, what kind of tasks, what kind of personality they are, introvert, extrovert, are they task orientated, are they people person, etc. Do you subscribe to those sort of tests, or?
Absolutely, yes. And I'm a qualified practitioner as well in the insights discovery one. I'm a massive fan of them, but I do think they have a place.
Okay.
And I think that you have to use them in the right way. So a psychometric profiling is not there just to be, you know, it's not there to pigeonhole people. And that's kind of what people think. If I fill this in, you're going to put me in this box and I'm going to stay there. And that's not what they're for. You know, they're there to understand an employee and really to kind of start those conversations. So it also enables them to understand themselves. And what I kind of come across and I find really interesting is people go, well, that's great. I know what I'm like. I don't need to know anybody else. You kind of think, oh, well, you do, because you need to know how to communicate. No, they just need to know how to communicate with me. Oh, well, not really. No, you know, communication's a two-way thing. Work's a two-way thing. It's like you need to be able to understand yourself, understand the other person, and then connect. And that's kind of what lacks sometimes, is that connection. And I think in organizations, you know, managers, they kind of go, oh, well, I know what I need. It's a job and I've got a person who can fill the job, so get on and do it. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. You need to talk to them properly. You need to understand, where do their motivations lie? Maybe this isn't for their expertise. You know, the humans are so complex, and a psychometric profile helps. And I suppose one of the things I've seen as well when it comes to recruiting, and you get this a lot time after time, somebody's in the role, somebody leaves the role, and you replace, and you say, we're replacing the role. Yes. What do you want? I want another one of them. Do you really want another one of them? Yeah, they were perfect. Okay. What does the role do? Well, it did exactly what that person did. Right. Okay. So, and it's really difficult because you think, actually, what is it that you really want from that role, from that person? What is it that they're trying to deliver? What is the purpose of that role and of that person? What is it that you want? And that's kind of, I think, where it's missed. And employee, you know, psychometric profiling is there to support it, but it's not the be all and end all. And I think that's with a lot of things, actually, in terms of HR and initiatives, it shouldn't be taken in isolation. Everything has got a knock-on effect and everything is interlinked. And I think, you know, business owners, they don't understand that with HR. They don't understand that, you know, if you tweak something over here, actually it has a knock-on effect over here. And they just see, oh, well, we need to run an employee survey, or we need to put in management program, you know, training program, or we need to increase how much recruitment we're doing because we're not getting the right candidates in. And it's like, it doesn't matter how much you keep increasing something. If you're doing it wrong at the beginning, you're going to continue to do it wrong. So something needs to change.
It's so interesting because it's the age-old analogy that, you know, people are practitioners in whatever they do, you know, coming full circle. They just need the perhaps it's not rare, but it's you know, how many really good practitioners at a role, or as a, you know, you've got a skill, you've got a trade, you've got a, I don't know, you've got your, I don't know, whatever it may be, but to have that sober look at your employees, to have somebody, or even yourself, to step back and look at your processes and just so it's so interesting. It's again, as if you're listening to this as you're talking, Rebecca, I'm sort of cringing because it's sort of, again, some mistakes I've made in the past, you know, where you talk about the knock-on effect, and just little things like how can I put this? So yeah, the knock-on effects of, you know, where we used to have our sort of yard and set up in the mornings, and how that was changed the other side of Cambridge, and that was like a little, I know it didn't seem like a massive thing, but it was that kind of, for everybody else, it was the extra time to get over there, and how that impacted on perhaps their home life prior to coming to work, and all these little things. And well, you just get on with it, because that's where it is. That's where the yard is. You get there, you do your job. Yeah, I'm sort of, this is good. This is good for me as well. I'm sort of linking it back to you know, previous episodes. But where were we? Sorry, where were we?
No, that's fine. And this is the thing, actually, because sometimes the needs of the business, you need to move. Like you moved the yard. You moved it from one side of Cambridge to the other because you had to do it for business reasons. And the employees felt something. And that kind of nicely actually brings me on to the physical environment as well that people are working in. So what does the physical environment make you, how does it make you feel? Go into work, you want to feel proud of the place you work in. You want to physically go, I've woken up in the morning, I want to go to work. That's what you want from your employees. You want them to feel motivated to get up and go in. And plants are one thing, but also you think about the working environment. Do you stay in one room in your house all day, every day, or do you move to different rooms depending on the activities you're doing?
Hopefully I'll move around to different rooms in the house. Yeah,
you do. So if you wanted food, you go to the kitchen. If you want to relax, you go to the living room. If you want to do some work, you might go to your office or to your study. And that's the same thing with work. Why do we have to go and sit at a desk, the same desk, every day in the same office to do all types of work? So if I'm collaborating with people, is a desk really the best place to collaborate? Or do I need a meeting room that's got a massive whiteboard on it? Or do I need to go into some outdoor space? Do I need to go to the canteen to do certain types of work? You know, there's lots of different. And what they've found is that different spaces at work and using them differently actually promotes productivity. It promotes happy feelings. It promotes you to want to go and do better and to do things. And you know, when it comes to space,
can I give a real life example of this, which I witnessed, and obviously before lockdown, the Bradfield Centre?
Absolutely.
Flipping brilliant. I am a professional people watcher, and I went to the Bradfield quite a bit. And again, you just sit back and you see how people are interacting. You see how people are, in the co-working space, and going out into the garden, going to the canteen, picking something up, walking around. That's a great example of what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely.
And it just gives people the autonomy to do what they feel they need to do to get the job done. So I don't know, sometimes you feel like, oh, I've got to sit here and I've really got to do this piece of work or do this presentation. I've done it. I've sat there in my, in offices in previous lives, and I've sat there and gone, oh, I need to do this, right? I need to concentrate, get my head down. And there's, lots of hustle and bustle going around, and I think I can't concentrate. And then you think, oh, I'll just give up on this. And it's like, oh, that was a great feeling I just had there. Actually, I should be passionate about this presentation that I need to write, or I should be, really interested, because actually I really am passionate about this subject. But just because of my working environment, it's had an impact on me, a negative impact. And now I've put that across into my work. And I'm not going to take huge amounts of pride on doing that, because actually I want to do a great job. I'm proud of what I do and the knowledge I've got and how I come across, and I want that to shine through my work. But just because of that environmental factor and impact, it's massively impacted me.
What's coming to mind as well, I don't know if you want to go down this route, is this sort of the sort of the lockdown sort of burnout, because again, for some people that their environment is the spare room, and they can't get into that office, they can't get what you said earlier about their autonomy, they are just they're there. They're at home.
I think COVID landing us in that situation has actually been quite extraordinary, because it's really just taken us out of our norm, out of the elements of what we had and what we knew. And so I think it's difficult really to think of the employee experience from a normal day-to-day perspective, because it is just so far-fetched of what's happened. People are in isolation. They can't move around and do necessarily what they want to do. They've lost that autonomy, as we said. But there's still ways to create good feelings with that. So about using technology, that then steps up. So where we've got the three elements around, culture, technological, and the physical environments, the physical environment in that respect might be quite low. So engagement and feeling might be quite low, but actually we can use technology to improve things. So it's not an exact science with any of these things, but it's about trying to balance and create the best that you can for the environment that you've got. I mentioned as well about, having different rooms to be able to do this, but it also comes down to flexible working. So, you know, it's not a 9 till 5. And I'm a massive advocate for it not being a bum on a seat 9 till 5. How many people stay productive for that amount of time? They don't.
No.
I mean, I don't. And so, you know, I like to work quite early in the morning. I work again, you know, really well, kind of mid to late afternoon. And then sometimes I even have a little bit, you know, in the evening. Now,
Yeah.
that's not a 9 till 5 job.
No.
But I also don't always work sitting down. So I'm lucky enough, I've got a stand-up desk. So sometimes I'll be working stood up, sometimes I'll be sat down working. I'll walk around, you know, the house at the moment and go into different rooms. I might sit in the garden and do some bits. But when you go back to work, it's not just about being in that work environment. It's about, actually, do you know what? I need to go over to Wales and I've got to go and see the in-laws or deal with something. I can still work over there. Because technology allows me to do it and I'm still really productive. So why have I got to stop? Why have I got to be in that office constantly? You know, why does the organization want to control that so much? Because they don't need to. But it comes down to things as trust, as delegation, as giving away control. And those things
are big, aren't they?
Yeah, but why are they big? Because it gives the feeling, it's feelings again, isn't it? I fear that if you are not in the office and I can't see you actively working, you're not doing your job. Okay, so you've got a management feeling because they're fearing something, they've lost control, and then you've got the employee feeling, which is you don't trust me. I'm demotivated because you won't let me do my work. I need to go and I've got these worries in my head of, I don't know, family or personal commitments or things that I've got to do, and I'm unable to do it and I feel restricted. So that's not positive feelings, that's negative feelings that are really happening in the workplace. And it can be such small things. So the way the manager talks to you, you know, and reacts to you having to go to a dentist appointment, on the fact you've got to go in and ask, you know, things like this. Do you ask in your personal lives to go to the dentist or pop to the shop or to do these things? You don't, do you? So why have you got to ask constantly to go and do things? Now, I understand there might be some people going, well, you're paid for this work. You know, you need to sit there and you need to do the job and you need to have return on investments. Completely agree. Absolutely right. But what I am saying, and I think what employee experience is about, is doing things differently so you get the best out of people. Now, some roles you can't, okay? So if you're in a manufacturing role, you've got to go to work. You've got to do a set process. You've got to do everything in that environment, but not all the time. So breakout rooms for them. If they need to go and have team meetings, they can go elsewhere. Might even have a garden. You know, they might have different technology that they can use. And also when we're looking at processes and procedures, like I mentioned earlier, for a manufacturing line, does it work for the people? Or is it, this is the best way because it saves money, it saves time? Because actually, we need to be saying to our employees, what do you think? How would you improve it? Now, not everybody's going to come up with a great answer, and it's not going to be something that you necessarily want to follow through, but are you actually talking to your employees? Are you actually listening to them? And I think a lot of businesses say, yes, we are, but they're not really.
So when you're working with companies, are you I guess you're going to the top. Are you going to the top first? Are you going to the sort of the owner manager business, the CEOs, whatever it may be, to really make your impact on that company? Is that where you're working first, or do you sort of go around the whole company and talk to the managers, talk to the employees? How does that work?
Yeah, you've got, I mean, in HR especially, HR works alongside every element and every part of the business. Whether you are the CEO of the business or you're right at the bottom of the hierarchy, it doesn't matter. Everybody's important. And you have to go to the top first, because you need to understand, where do the leaders of this business want to take the business? What are the values of this business? What is it all about? What's your techniques in terms of leadership style, management styles? What is it that you want? Where have you got the emphasis on? Is it that you don't care about what people do, you just want to hit this number? Is it actually you want to give back to the people, and they're really important, and you're not so concerned on the number because you've got different strategies that will cover that? Every business is different, so you really kind of need to understand the crooks and the nooks right at the very top to then understand what should be potentially going on in the business but perhaps isn't. And then you start talking to managers, you start talking to all the employees or focus groups of them, just to understand actually what the leader wants is the reality of what's actually happening on the floor. Because a lot of times, and I've gone and done employee engagement surveys and things like that, and you say to the management team, do you know what the results are going to be? Yes, we know, Okay, fantastic. You go and do the results, you go and do the survey, you come back with the results, and you say, right, this is what the employees said, and they go, no, load of rubbish. What do you mean it's a load of rubbish? You just asked them. This is what they've said. I've not turned around and made this up. Well, that can't be true. And I think a lot of it is kind of around egos. And I don't want my department to be failing. That's not really what's happening. And it's almost like they see what's happening in that department as their individual failure, but it's not. It's so much bigger than that. It's the support system around them, the structure that's in place, the employees that are working there. And sometimes that department head gets a lot of stick for what's happened from an employee perspective, but the employee is actually really annoyed with the company and the fact that the values of the company aren't aligned with the employee. And so what needs to happen is they either need to align and come on board, or sometimes the employee might need to exit the business because they've just grown apart. And I think businesses kind of fear that unknown and don't really know what to do with it. And so they go, well, we don't necessarily want to let people go. We don't necessarily want to change anything. So do you know what? We just won't ask. We'll just bury our head in the sand and we'll just keep going. But doing something about it could also mean we've listened to you, we hear what you're saying, but we're not going to do something because of this, and this reason. So it's not a case of an employee says, oh, we must jump on the spot 10 times every day. Okay, everybody, we're now going to do that. No, we're just not. Great idea. If you feel that energizes you, you do that. If you want to get people involved in it, then, please go and do that. But as a business, we are not saying that you must go and do it. That's just a silly example, but do you kind of see where I'm taking that?
I think you're worth your weight in gold, because as you're talking about the interplay between the managers, the employees, the emotions, the values, the people's personal values, I want to say it can be very complicated, but perhaps it could just be very simple as well. I mean, you must have a very difficult job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a few things with that. When you speak to people about HR, they see it very much as it's an administrative level. Sometimes it's, here's a box of tissues. Yeah, we do your holidays and we write some contracts for you and we fire people. And it's really not about that. I'm very big advocate for business partnering and understanding what's going on in your business. And there's a HR guru called Dave Ulrich, and he basically kind of has this pyramid style whereby you have HR administrative duties at the bottom and tasks, and then as you go up in the pyramid you get to the more strategic. And that's the pyramid, because you always have 10 people doing the administrative and then one person doing the strategic, where actually what we should be doing is tipping that pyramid on its head and having one or two people doing the administrative, because systems take over and automate a lot of what we do. And then actually we do more of the strategic and the business partnering side of things. So that's really understanding what the business is all about, where it's trying to go, how it's getting there, and then supporting them in doing that. And I think what people see with HR is, oh, you just suck costs out of the business. You know, you're a cost center. You don't earn any money for the business.
I've heard that phrase, cost center. Bloody hell. I've heard that 1,000 times.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, this is what people are saying. But the thing is,
But that being said, but surely the numbers don't back that up, because you can say, oh, you're a cost center. You just look at that bloody invoice. But then you could say to them, well, look at your invoices for those costs, and those costs, and that redundancy, and that, and that, and that.
Yeah, but HR doesn't directly bring money in. And that's the difference. So we are a support function in HR. But what we do is we can make the business more money. And that is coming back to employee experience. Because, and let me just, I mean, I'll take you through this example, if you don't mind, around kind of recruitment. So if you think about it, you have got somebody, someone's just left in your business, and you need to hire for the role. So let's say this organisation is about 200 people big, and you've got a turnover of 10%. Now, for some industries that might be low, for other industries that might be quite high. But 10% of your organisation turns over each year. So in a 200 people strong organisation, that is 20 people. Now, if you take an average salary of, say, 40,000 for the professional workforce, then you're looking, if you look at just recruitment agency fees alone, they usually take about 20% cut on that. That's £8,000 per role, per person, for 20 roles. It's already quite a lot, isn't it?
That's somebody's Brucey bonus there, isn't it? It's just,
that's quite a lot of money just in finding the person. You've then got onboarding costs, training costs to get them up and running, because when you hire a person in, they can't hit the ground running on day one.
No.
Very, very rarely can they do that. So you've got all this downtime when you're interviewing the person from what they're doing to actually try to focus on recruiting. You've then got all the training time, and there might be lots of training courses to go on the job training, which sucks somebody else's time, huge amounts. So you could be looking for one person, a total investment of £20,000 up. Some organisations, we did a study earlier in the I think it was last year now. We worked out for one company, it was £60,000 per employee. Now you've got 20 people turnover in a year on average. That's a lot, isn't it? That's an awful lot of money, huge amounts. But you don't directly see all of that because it's management time, it's lost time. So it's not a direct bill, it's not a £60,000 invoice that you've got to pay, but you've lost that productivity in your organisation as a result of your turnover. And this kind of links me back to the real importance of employee experience, because and just taking that recruitment process, because what do? You know, as soon as I see an advert come up on a job advert, I've got an experience of your business. The terminology that you use, the tone of voice that you've got, are you putting a salary on there? What is your business? Because already, if I know your business or I know people who know it, then they're going to start telling me things. So your brand reputation, what is it you're all about? You know, are you a business that doesn't care about the environment, but I'm, a bit Greenpeace type and I want to know? Or actually, are you quite a cutthroat individual and you're not really interested in it and you want to run and join a business that's like it? So already you're applying thoughts and feelings to a business, and all you've done is read a job advert. Then
do you feel that's a point that's that kind of people miss? That's the first touch point. Do you feel a lot of companies don't realize it's the first touch point with the company, and it's just, well, we just put the technical stuff on there, salary, hours, blah blah blah, and they miss out on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you look at a job advert, where do you go? You go and have a look on the website. So the website's another touch point. Now, we communicate really well with our customers about selling our businesses to them, but actually HR needs to be working with marketing. because as soon as you go on the website, it's not only serving customers, it's serving potential employees and people that are going to work with us, and suppliers and contractors and all those people. And what's our employer brand saying about our business? So you've really got to think about what's that messaging. Now, you know, I've seen some great websites and things where they talk about, you know, testimonials, and they have people a day in the life of and all this, but that gives people a feeling of what it's like to work in the business. So we're going back to the feelings again. And what that does is when you get a good sense and a good feeling at an interview or through the process and you're talking to people, you want to work there. You think, I could be a part of this. You know, we've got shared values. You know, you're driven, I'm driven. We agree in the same things. I want to work for you.
You can't underestimate that, because well, obviously you don't, but I have really had it this week. So won't mention any names, but I got a contact. Somebody saw a LinkedIn post from the last podcast. Yada. We had it, but they saw the website, and then we had a Zoom call between myself and this organization. And you know what? I came out of that Zoom call, came off the back of that Zoom call, and I haven't had this in ages, but you came out of it, and not get emotional, but it was just like, bloody hell, I really, really, really I believe in your mission, and you've read my website, and there's a bit of, and I haven't had that in ages, that I really want to be involved with this. You know, I would cut my fee just to be involved with this. Do you know what I mean? And that was, and it's the first time where, in truth, I really thought about, you know, aligning of values. You know, unfortunately, a lot of the time, economic necessity can really just take over. But it's coming away really, really wanting to work with them, really just waiting for that, you know, waiting for the time where you can, you know, sign on the dotted line. I've never had that before, to be honest. Really never had it.
And that is the power of an employee experience, because you've got the feeling that you want to work there. You've got a purpose. You think we've got a joint goal and something that you can achieve together.
Yes.
And that is exactly what it is. People want to belong. They want to work well. They want to move forward. And, you know, it's not difficult. It's a buzzword, employee experience. But we talk so much about customer experience that employee experience almost feels new and alien. And it's not really. It's just looking inward at what it is we want, because we do so well at looking outward at everything we want. So, I mean, even to continuing with the recruitment process, you know, people coming in, interviewing, being interviewed by you, and then you go and do the tour. You know, you've always been on the tour around the building, and then you listen to people in the kitchen talking. So if they're talking negatively and, oh, I blooming hate this place, you know, oh, here we go again, management have got me working extra hours and well, as a potential employee, I'm going, oh, don't know, not sure I now want to work here.
Yeah.
Or you look at desks and you think, oh my goodness me, everybody's so isolated. Where can I have a chat to people to, and where can we collaborate? And there's no windows here, and oh my goodness, you can't even get, you know, there's no tea and coffee, or, you know, where can I go and break out? And all these sort of things people have, they put sometimes they put a right to, you know, I have a right to free tea and coffee, or I have a right to a desk which is in an open plan office, because that's what I work to, that's my value, that's what I hold as dear to me. So they want the business to do it. And if the business isn't in line, you're not going to get that employee. And I think, you know, we still very much are kind of like, well, the organisation's got all the cards, and yes, if we want you, then we can get you as a potential candidate. You know, we can offer you more money, and, you know, we're going to sit you here and you're going to do this job. And it's just not right. It's just not the way anymore. You know, we need to be giving more to our employees in terms of environment and job satisfaction and empowerment and trust, and, you know, the feeling of wanting to be there and being happy and motivated. And
this is great stuff. I just want to spread this podcast as far and wide into every person I know or I've ever come across, because Do you ever? So it was quite interesting. These are not my words, but I saw on social media the other day that, you know, as an employer, you work for the employees. It's not the other way around.
I don't believe in that, actually. I believe in it being, it's a two-way thing. So I think as a business owner, you do work for your employees work for your customers will work for your business, and then it kind of goes round. You know, I believe that. But in terms of actually in a business day to day, I think the employer needs to listen to the employees, and the employees need to understand the expectations that the employer wants. So I think it's very much a balancing act between the two. I think for it to really work.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was only paraphrasing, quoting somebody else. So I don't have any sort of. It just came to me that quote.
So I wanted to just touch upon a little bit more around employee engagement. Now, I know I've mentioned it earlier about, you know, kind of surveys and understanding what the employees want and then taking short-term actions based upon that. But I kind of want businesses to look at it in a little bit of a bigger way. So when you look at things like, right, we need to save costs, businesses always do the whole, oh, we need to cut headcount, we need to reduce pay, we need to reduce overtime, we need to change suppliers for cheaper products or you know, cheaper services and things like this. Get rid of that cleaning company, get a new one in. And we keep looking externally. And actually, if we start tying it into our processes, our procedures, systems, our culture, people, the environment that we're in, we can actually not only save money, but we can generate more money. And I wanted to share with you some figures that I've looked at recently, and this is from a couple of surveys that have been done, and they have looked at employee experience enhancing the employee engagement in businesses. Now, just have a think about some of these figures. I'll just run through them because I think they're pretty impressive. If you increase your employee experience, your employee engagement score increases, and your business can see 2.5 times greater revenue growth, double the amount of net income, but you also start to see 62% less accidents happen in your workplace. You have 50% less absence days, 40% lower employee turnover per annum, 18% higher productivity in your business, and 12% higher customer advocacy. That is pretty impressive, isn't it?
So go for that again. So 62% was
accidents.
Let's say Carla Crocombe would love that. Sorry, so I'll link her into this little clip. She'd love 62% less accidents. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, 62% less accidents, 50% less.
50% less absence days from work.
Yeah.
40% lower employee turnover.
Yeah.
18% higher productivity. And 12% higher customer advocacy.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean they're very impressive numbers, and again, then so as it kind of rather than looking outwards, looking inwards.
Yeah.
I guess if I've got this correct, what you're saying is that the way the employee feels impacts on that bottom line. They feel engaged, they feel they've got autonomy, they feel good, blah blah blah, and that leads to more productivity. If you perhaps boil it down, more productivity per hour, per head. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, so you're getting the most that you possibly can out of your employees because of the way you've set your business up. Because the happier you are, the more motivated you are, the more productive you are, the more you're going to output. the more you're going to create, you're going to be innovative, you're going to drive things forward, you're going to, all these things a business loves, because they think you're just growing my business. You're helping to diversify products, to go into new markets, to, gain more revenue. The way that we're speaking to customers is the right way. We're really connecting with them. The whole smile on the telephone type thing, it comes across. If you are happy, then happiness is contagious, it spreads. If you are negative and sad, it's really draining. And you even know on a personal level, if you've got happy-go-lucky people, you want to get involved and you want to be there, and kind of, you get dragged into it.
Yeah.
But it's the same if you've got negative people. You kind of, everything's hard work, and it kind of drags you down, and negative, and why am I doing this? And ultimately then people just like leave organizations and think, well, I can go and be happy and do something else somewhere else. So it's massive. I mean, employee engagement is another subject that, you could talk for hours on, because it is really useful snapshot for organizations. But I just wanted to kind of leave you with those figures, just to kind of think about, and to think in your organizations, actually, what could you change internally that can make massive difference to your organizations, rather than hiring new people or going out and having to get a lot more customers. You can look internally for these things to increase your revenues. Lots to think about.
Because I know I'm sort of pausing, because that is the initial reaction, isn't it? It's, I don't know, we'll go out to market and we'll buy 20 websites and we'll do this and we'll do that, and we'll, I don't know, incentivize people to make 400 calls a day and all the rest of it. And but perhaps coming full circle, it takes perhaps coming back perhaps to the ego, it's perhaps looking internally into the business and looking at different departments. They may appear a harder task than just looking outwards for better business results.
Yeah, I think actually what it boils down to is knowledge and lack of it, or not knowing where to go to find out how to do things. And so people don't look internally, they look externally to try to get quick fixes.
Yeah.
And I think actually if we educated ourselves on things like employee experience, if we educated ourselves in business areas that we don't understand, then actually how we deal with things would be so much better, because you know how to apply it, you know how it works, you get the experts in to kind of take you through and guide you. And I know sometimes, businesses don't have the money to be able to do that, but there's so much resources now available in terms of, podcasts, books, things. Just learn, just read, just, listen to things and try and educate yourself to make things better. Because I think if you start there, everybody else in your business will start doing the same. If you're very much about, right, we're going to do it this way, we've done it this way, that's it, we're not ever changing, then don't expect innovation to happen in your workplace, because nobody will do it, because you're not doing it. If you're constantly learning, if you're constantly evolving, if you're failing, picking yourself back up, moving on, then you create an environment where people can do that. And so you'll then get that innovation, you'll then get that creativity, you'll then develop and grow as a business.
Because there's always the push and pull between the, companies might not have the money to do it, but what's the cost of not doing it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh dear, I'm going to have to sit down in a darkened room for literally 2 days now. Flipping brilliant, Rebecca. Thanks for that. Absolutely.
All right, it's a pleasure.
I've
really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on.
Super. Yeah, brilliant. So at the end of every podcast, can you let people know where they can find you, websites, LinkedIn, etc., etc., etc.? So if you want to let people know where they can, if they want to, they get hold of you.
Excellent. Thanks for having me on the show as well. It's been great. So you can find me at www.hrready.co.uk. That's our company website. Contact us on 01223 641 017. And we're also on LinkedIn as well. So if you want to have a look at the company page, or you can definitely join my LinkedIn profile, and that's Rebecca Davies.
Yeah, I would actually recommend people following you on LinkedIn, just for, again, coming full circle. I do love your posts, because the vast majority of the 80 contacts on LinkedIn, I just scroll through, but it's quite nice. I read, what's she saying today? I'll have a look at that. I'll give it that a read. So yeah, I would fully recommend LinkedIn. Also, some of the things you talked about, could we, after the podcast's over, could you send me through to links to Dave Ulrich?
Ulrich, yeah.
And the guy who coined the physical, the physical systems, the environmental. What was the guy's name?
Jacob Morgan.
Jacob Morgan. Cool. So if you send links through, and then I can put that in the blurb underneath, so people can sort of click through to that as well. That's okay.
Yeah, no, it'd be brilliant.
Good stuff.
Lovely. Thanks so much.
See ya.
Take care.